Gunner, we got a video from our good friend Case Study QB. Would you mind pulling up the first story up?
Of course.
All right, great. Let's get it all set up because this has to deal with what happens with yesterday's election, and Fox News is reacting to Jamaal Bowman. Let's hear what Fox News has to say.
A long-serving congressman from New York. In Tuesday's primary, he was challenged by a young man with no political experience at all.
That British
the
man
challenger
seems
is
shocked.
leading. Engel may lose, and that has significance way beyond New York. That's because Jamaal Bowman, the challenger, is a socialist. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a very prominent supporter. Bowman wants Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, and he wants to defund police departments. If he becomes Congressman Bowman, the far left gets even stronger, and the Democrat split gets a lot more obvious. Old line establishment Democrats supported Engel. Look at them. Hillary Clinton, Senator Schumer, Speaker Pelosi. They all lined up behind the 73-year-old incumbent. A trio of big hitters desperate to avoid another challenge to their authority within the party. The old guard is being pushed further and further to the left, and they don't like it. I think, just think for a second, what this means for Joe Biden's candidacy. He's very much the old guard, but he's got to come up with policies that attract the young upstarts. AOC, and if he wins, Congressman Bowman. They will have a role in formulating those policies. They're pulling left. How does Joe accommodate the socialists while holding on to the moderates? And think what a Bowman victory means for New York and struggling cities all across the country. He wants to cut funding for the police. That's not very encouraging for any city that's trying to come back
Except
from the
in your
riots
native
and the
London.
virus lockdown. With 95% of the vote counted, actually I think it was 92% of the vote counted, Jamaal Bowman leads Eliot Engel 60% to 36%. Mail-in ballots have not yet been counted.
You might want to call that. You would if it was the other direction.
That is next week. So the Democrats have to wait to see if another insurgent further splits their party. Doesn't this raise another problem? What happens in November? With widespread mail-in balloting, we're not likely to find out who won the presidency on Election Day. It could be days or weeks to get the result. And that is a guarantee of chaos.
Oh, the horror, the humanity. Oh no, another Democratic socialist in Congress. What are we ever going to do? The old guard is broken. Oh no.
Somebody's
Just
scared.
the way this bastard is even talking about new progressives winning office, winning elections, actually beating that neoliberal bastard Eliot Engel, who said on the record, if there wasn't a primary at the height of the George Floyd protest, I would not care. That's what Eliot Engel said, that 73-year-old bastard. And I'm glad that Crib Keeper bastard is out of office. And you know what? That Fox News reporter, pundit, whatever the hell you want to call him, saying that these new progressives are upstarts, you know, hey, you British fat bastard, there was one time when somebody called you an upstart too, and that's the whole thing about change, and that means, you know what, the old guard eventually has to leave, and if people like Nancy Pelosi don't like it, well, too bad, so sad. Tiniest violin being played, because here's the thing that's going to happen in November. Now, the thing is, a lot of progressives and independents, they'll have to make the decision whether or not they want to vote for Biden, because, again, Biden has made his answers in regards to progressive causes such as student debt forgiveness and, you know, Medicare for all. He said he doesn't care. He's not going to change. He's not going to budge. He's not on board with the defund police movement. So, you know what? Joe Biden is his own worst enemy, and the old guard is its own worst enemy. But here's the thing. Winning the Congress and the Senate is more important right now because obviously it's sending a message to the Democratic and Republican establishment that their time is up. Now, here's the thing. We got to hold these new elected officials accountable for their actions, and we have to make sure that they remember that they're public servants. But here's the thing. Corporate media is still trying to figure it out. Oh, no, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to everything that we're so used to? Well, that's the thing. That's the thing, guys. Change always happens. It's always going to happen. And if you cannot adapt, then you will die off. It's just that simple. If you cannot adapt, people will elect you out of office because obviously you're not keeping up with the times. Right now, Americans out there are struggling, and people respond to strong leadership. Perception drives reality. We've said this on the show time and time again, and Jamaal Bowman was out there with the protesters. He was out there listening to his constituents. He was out there standing with them with no political background, no political history, but he knows more about the minute and the hour about what's happening outside than Representative Eliot Engel. Eliot Engel has been in power for 20-plus years. You really think people would elect him out of office if he actually really did care about the people? No. Eliot Engel was a servant to the establishment. He was a hack fraud, a neoliberal sellout, and Jamaal Bowman beat him. And I think it's long overdue. And then as another side note, too, was the November election. Turnout is key. If Biden can convince enough people to turn out for the general election, okay. But just remember, Electoral College, that's what runs the day. And if voter suppression isn't solved, if there's a lack of open polling stations, well, then the Democrats are basically sinking their own campaign. Biden's campaign right now, if the fact that they're not screaming from the rooftop for more polling stations to be open, well, that's on them. Guys, take it away.
Yeah, I love establishment, the smell of establishment fear in the morning. You know, it's really, really good.
It's delicious.
It's so nice. You know, and I did a little math today, and the four people that he listed as the old guard in his report were Schumer, Pelosi, Clinton, and Engel. Did you know the four of them combined are 294 years old?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And yeah, so you know what I'm really hoping happens, which this is probably very much wishful thinking, is that these new folks, these new progressives come in and they start putting things in like term limits, because this is what happens when people get their teeth sunk into power. They don't want to let it go. And then they're in office for 30, 40 years. Some of these people have been in office for longer than I've been alive. And I'm no spring chick, you know, so it's really—
You're the best though, that's why.
You know. So, you know, I really think that this points to how important term limits are, because we see so much of the younger generation, millennials and now Zoomers, and even some of the Gen Xers who are extremely progressive, who are not being represented. And that's why so many people are, you know, saying third party. Like there's a whole population of people who are not being represented. And so that question of like, how does Joe accommodate the socialist wing and the moderate wing? Well, you don't. Those are two completely different factions. What do you guys think?
I would say it's much easier to get the Democrats and Republicans to get along rather than progressives, because fundamentally progressives have a different way of looking at the world. You have everything is basically based off of an idea of, let corporate businesses do everything that they want, give them as many rights as they want, make them people as much as they want, put in people in power that will maintain that system. It is the backlash to what FDR did. And I think that, I forget who said it, but they were saying that no one expected the Spanish Inquisition. No, in this case, no one expected Wall Street and big banks, corporations to swing back after what effectively was the most prosperous for some people in U.S. history, and that was like the 60s and the 70s, in terms of you can have a college degree and have a house. You could be a milkman and have a house,
2 cars, a summer villa. Why not?
And so this is, what's his name? What's that guy's name? Varney or whatever his name is. That old guy, the British guy.
Stuart Varney.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
I'm gonna just leave it with some very simple words. Fox News will appreciate them as they're your words. If you don't like it, go back to where you came from. Ooh.